I'm swapping a 241 in place of my 246 transfer case. The 246 is the auto track transfer case. This is the 246. I already have it out. It came out of a 2001 Tahoe. This is the 241 that I'm putting in its place. The difference between these is the 246 is controlled by a control module computer basically, and the 241 is a manual shift transfer case. The external parts of these cases are very similar. They have the same bolt pattern where it bolts to the adapter. They have the same output, so you can use your rear drive line. They're the same length, so the rear drive line remains the same. And they bolt to the mount, the cross member mount is the same pattern. You can hunt and find the same, whatever input you have in your vehicle now, you can hunt and find a transfer case with the same input. So I've already done a 4L80 swap on this Tahoe. So I have the 32 spline input transfer case. I found a transfer case, the 241 has a 27 spline input. It's the smaller half-ton version, which was originally in this Tahoe. I'll grab this socket to show how much different it is. So this socket would fit, it's smaller than the shaft that's coming off the back of my 4L80E. This came off like probably a 700 R4, and it shows how much bigger the 4L80E shaft is than the 4L60E. I'm going to take that input shaft out of that transfer case and put it in that transfer case. The reason I bought this transfer case is it was really cheap and it has the output I want. So originally my Tahoe, or currently even, it has this female splined output on the front of the transfer case, and the drive line slips into there, and it's a non-collapsible front drive line. I want a fixed yoke. I'm going to switch to a fixed yoke output, so I'll put a collapsible front drive line in there that has the splines, the collapsing part inside the drive line. Because one of the next mods I want to do is put a solid axle swap on this Tahoe, and you need that output shaft to do a solid axle swap. .246 is shifted by buttons on the dash and this shift actuator here. Electronics control the shifting. The 241 shifted by this lever and linkage to a lever that comes through the floor. I got this out of a 90s Chevy pickup. This is the shifter. I'm gonna try, I have a center console on my Tahoe and I'd like to keep it. So I'm gonna try to modify this shifter, make it really small and run it right on the side of my center console, and so I can keep my center console and have a floor shifter. We'll see if it works. Most of the work with swapping a 241 in place of a 246 involves electrical. So the 241 transfer case has one vehicle speed sensor on the back of it, and it has a larger 2-pin connector. This is the connector. I just got this at the wrecking yard. It has a purple and green wire. The 246 has a smaller 2-pin connector, but also purple and green wire. You just need to cut this connector off of your harness and splice on this connector. The 246 has 3 2-pin connectors. One of them's a blue and a green wire, and one's another color. Just find the purple and green wire. It's the rear vehicle speed sensor. I believe it's this side. It's the purple and green, and that's the signal. The tone ring is the same off the older. This is like a 96 241 transfer case, 1996, and this is a 2001. It's the same tone ring in there. You hook the purple and green wire up, the computer's gonna know how fast the vehicle's going. Another thing you need to wire when doing this swap is a signal to the front actuator, the front axle actuator. It needs a ground. So when you want it to engage in either 4 high or 4 low, you need to ground that actuator. The 241 does that through this switch. When this lever moves, either all the way forward to 4 low or all the way back to 4 high, it pushes this ball in and connects. This is a 3-pin, and it's labeled A, B, and C. It connects A to C. So it doesn't matter how you wire it. I got the pigtail from the wrecking yard, the outside wires, the A and the C. You need to take one of them to ground and the other one to the front actuator. So when you shift the transfer case, it grounds the front actuator and engages your 4-wheel drive. The other thing you need to wire when swapping in a manual shift transfer case and getting rid of your transfer case control module is a signal to the computer, letting the computer know that you're in 4 low versus 2 high or 4 high. It's going to use a different shift table because like this transfer case has a 2.7 to 1 reduction in it. So it needs to know that it's going slower and it's going to shift sooner because it has a lower range in it. People do that with some people just do it with a toggle switch. You find the wire that comes through transfer case control module and you ground it. And that when it's grounded, the computer thinks it's in 4 low. When it's not grounded, it thinks it's in 2 high or 4 high. I'm going to try to use a switch in this housing for my shifter. Think if I use like a brake switch that would go under the dash. When I shift this all the way forward, it'll hit that switch and ground and create a ground. We'll close a switch and create a ground to the PCM, the engine control module, and let it know that it's in 4 low, so it'll use the other shift table. I ran down to the wrecking yard and grabbed a new drive line. I was just going to show you real quick. See how it's 2 pieces. It slips right here. And this is the original drive line. It's 1 piece. So since I have that other yoke, uses this style of drive line, and then you'll use this same drive line will probably work when I solid axle swap the Tahoe. While I was there, I grabbed some. This will go where the auto track buttons are in the dash, so I can take those buttons out. I'm going to remove this cover off of this shifter. I don't think I'm going to be able to use that. And then I'm going to start figuring out where I can cut a hole. I don't think that cover is going to fit on that shifter because the center console is right here. Get the center console out of the way and the shifter disassembled, and I'll have a better idea. Modified the shifter, took the handle, used to offset over this way. I cut it apart, welded it back together, so now it's straight, actually leans towards the driver's door of the vehicle. And then I took a switch. It's like an 80s GM brake switch. Drilled a hole in the housing, put some jam nuts in here, and now the switch is open. It should be 4 high, 2 high, neutral, and then when it goes to 4 low, it closes that switch. And that one of these wires will be to ground, the other one will be to the computer. I think it's pin 16, and that'll tell it to switch to the other shift table so it shifts at the proper RPM for being in 4 low. So I got the console out of the way. I cut a hole and I put 4 nut inserts. They're just 1/4 nut inserts. I'm just use some 1/4 inch long bolts to bolt the housing down. Okay, this is the wiring harness I made up. I'll go through all the connectors real quick in case you wanted to do this same setup. This is the 3-pin This goes down to the front differential. Where this connects on that Tahoe is up on the inner fender on the driver's side. There's a jumper from here down to the actual diff. There's 3 wires, well there's 4 wires. One of them you don't need, it's for a light. The 3 wires I used are black, brown, and blue. Blue is switched ground. Brown is 12 volt from the computer. Black is the chassis ground. That chassis ground goes down this harness to here. That's the cab mount. The brown is 12 volt. There's a small jumper over to this, plugs in underneath the fuse box. And then it jumps down to the computer. There's 2 wires here. This is the brown. That's that 12 volt switched. This is on when ignition's on. It becomes hot, 12 volt. It goes down and powers the front diff. The other wire is the signal to pin 16. When grounded, it changes the shift chart. You get that signal from that switch I put into the shifter. That's the white wire goes to that. I believe the orange wire I ended up using back here to a chassis ground. So it's grounded to the switch, switch closes, it grounds the computer. And then here's the connector that goes into the top of the transfer case. It also has a wire that comes down to that same grounding point on that cab mount. The other wire runs all the way up here to the front diff and is the switch, the signal wire to engage the front diff. Hopefully that's clear enough that if you wanted to try to do this, you could follow along. All right, I think I'm done with this project. I got the transfer case in, wiring harnesses in, drive lines, and then I got the shifter all mounted, center consoles back together, and I took this the shroud or the guard off the original transfer case shifter I got like a 95 Chevy or something, and cut it down so that it fits, covers up the ugly. Didn't come out too bad. I got real good light today, but when I sit in here, my leg kind of slightly rests against that shifter, which isn't great, but I don't drive this thing that much, so it'll be all right. Anyway, thanks for watching.